Discover the incredible journey of transformation, a heartwarming love rekindled at the ranch. Emily parked her truck outside their modest home, her heart heavy with worry. The ranch, once alive with vibrant laughter and bustling activity under her father's reign, now stood silent, its soul slowly sinking beneath a mountain of past due notices. She glanced at 10-year-old Jake, who was bouncing in the seat with a hopeful grin, oblivious to the heaviness in the air. That smile always made her want to fight harder, to pull them from the abyss of uncertainty. As she climbed out, the hot Texas sun beat down, the dusty wind swirling around her like it carried the weight of the world. Thoughts of rising bills swirled in her mind, it felt like a storm, dark and unrelenting. Yet, every heartbeat reminded her of her son, the flickering fire that never died. She'd crawl through fields of broken dreams for him. "Mom, can we have a barbecue tonight?" Jake asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Just us. I'll help." A pang of warmth shot through her. "Sure, buddy. We'll make it a fun night," she replied, trying to mask the worry clinging to her throat. The sound of his laughter was music, a comforting tune that made her remember the joy before everything changed. One hot afternoon, Jake took her hand and begged, "Can we call Dad? I think it'll make things better." Emily hesitated, the thought of rekindling the past sent chills down her spine, but the hope shining in Jake's eyes was irresistible. With a shaky breath, she picked up the phone. "Matt, it's Emily," she said, her voice trembling. Their conversation was tentative, strained, their shared history twisted around them like barbed wire. Yet, against all odds, he agreed to come back to the ranch. The days that followed were awkward. Emily and Matt worked side by side, tension crackling in the air. Each glance carried history, battles fought and lost. Memories of laughter and shared dreams clashed with the sharp edge of wounded pride. Despite this, they both adored their son, and with every sunrise over the endless Texas plains, there were moments of solace. Grumbling cows, dusty boots, and worn fences became their canvas for healing. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the ranch seemed full of promise, an outsider appeared. A slick businessman saw their struggles as opportunity. He painted a picture of shiny new beginnings, but his intentions felt like a vulture circling the wounded. The threat tightened around Emily and Matt, forcing them to face their deepest fears. Jake, caught in the middle, felt the strain. Loyalty waged war within him as he witnessed his parents' silent battles. As the tension mounted, Matt stood at a crossroads. A decision lingered in the air. Would he choose to fight for their family or give in to fear? Emily's heart raced. She could see it in Jake's worried eyes, a plea for unity amidst the impending storm. Could they mend what was broken, or was the past insurmountable? The future lay heavy on their shoulders, and as they faced the darkening skies, it became clear, something had to give. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting shadows that danced across the ranch's dust-covered paths. Matt leaned against a weathered fence post, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Wind tousled his hair as he wrestled with the weight of recent events. Should he take a stand against the businessmen? Or was it smarter to walk away and save them from further heartache? Behind him, he could hear Emily bustling about the grill, her laughter spilling into the air as she prepared for their barbecue. It was a small gathering, just the three of them. Yet, for the first time in a long while, it felt like a ritual of hope. As he turned to join her, the sight of Jake digging through the picnic basket warmed his heart. The boy was the embodiment of sweetness and innocence, blissfully unaware of the looming storm. "Hey, Dad." Jake's voice rang out over the sizzle of the grill. "Help me find the marshmallows." Matt chuckled, his heart swelling. You mean the same marshmallows you planned to roast to a charcoal crisp? Jake flashed a mischievous grin. That's the best part. As Matt walked over, he couldn't help but admire the determination etched on Emily's face. She moved with grace and purpose, embodying a strength he admired. Then, that old familiar spark ignited between them as their eyes locked for a brief moment, a fleeting connection amidst the chaos. Remember the last time we grilled? Emily asked, a hint of nostalgia in her voice. Matt paused, caught off guard. The pizza party? She laughed, her laughter weaving itself through the air like a soft melody. No, the time you almost set your eyebrows on fire trying to impress me with the perfect steak. He grinned, the memory breaking through undercurrents of awkwardness. I didn't think you noticed. Hard not to, she teased back. The atmosphere lightened, and for a moment, it nearly felt like old times. But looming over their small reprieve was the businessman's ultimatum. Matt's chest tightened with anxiety. They had until the end of the week to decide whether to sell or fight. As they maneuvered around the grill, serving burnt burgers and slightly charred vegetables, Jake jumped from his seat, eyes sparkling with excitement. Can we tell scary stories after dinner? He asked, his voice full of joy. Why not? Matt replied, laughing. It was a welcome distraction, a way to sweep the storm under the rug if only for a moment longer. After dinner, the three of them settled around a makeshift campfire. The flames crackled, casting flickering shadows against their faces. Jake, glowing with delight, launched into a tale about a haunted barn. Matt and Emily shared tentative smiles, their hearts easing as they joined in to embellish Jake's story. But as Jake's eyes grew heavy with sleep, reality beckoned. The tension returned, unspoken words hung thick between Emily and Matt. Both were aware that their feigned normalcy was about to unravel. Matt felt the weight of a decision that could change everything. Emily, he began, his voice steady but low, we need to talk about the ranch and the offer. She looked at him, her expression shifting from laughter to concern. In that moment, the fire crackled louder, illuminating their uncertain futures. They both knew the talk was coming, but no one was prepared for the truth they might have to confront. Yeah, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, we do. As they stared into the flickering flames, a wave of fear washed over them. Each was filled with thoughts of what might happen if they chose to stay together or apart. And just as Matt opened his mouth to speak again, a shadowed figure emerged from the darkness, cutting through the moment. It was the businessman, a smirk on his lips and an oppressive aura hanging in the air. Hope I'm not interrupting, he called out, his voice dripping with insincerity. Matt's heart raced. How could they fight against someone who seemed to have all the power now? As the man stepped closer, an uncomfortable knot formed in Matt's stomach, but it was Jake's sleepy yet curious gaze that broke him. Who's that? Jake whispered, cutting through the tension. With an uncertain smile, Matt replied, just someone we need to talk to, buddy. But as they faced the newcomer, a realization settled in. But were they ready to defend their home, their family, and each other? They would find out soon enough. And in the distance, a storm began to brew, mirroring their conflicted hearts. The businessman stepped into the flickering light of the campfire, his presence suffocating the warmth they had just shared. Matt felt the air grow heavy, as if the world outside had come crashing in on them. Jake's innocent curiosity hung in the air, but his childish wonder was lost on the tension that had enveloped the three of them. Nice place you've got here, the businessman said, turning his gaze from one to the next. But it could be so much more if you let me help. Matt clenched his fists, anger mixing with fear. We're not interested in your help. The man's smirk widened, undeterred. Oh, I think you'll change your mind. It's only a matter of time. He stepped closer, his words dripping with false charm. You need to think about what's best for your family. Jake shifted in Matt's lap, sensing the change in the air. Dad? He said, his voice small. Who is he really? Matt swallowed hard, casting a quick glance at Emily, who was watching with a quiet intensity. There was unspoken understanding in her eyes, a reminder of what was truly at stake. He couldn't let fear overpower his resolve. The businessman pulled out a business card from his pocket, handing it to Matt with a mockingly gentle grip. Just give it some thought. I can make this ranch profitable better than you ever imagined. He looked directly at Jake, a glint of insincerity in his gaze. Show your dad how to make some real money. Matt felt rage boiling beneath the surface. This ranch is our home. It's not just a business deal. You're right, it's not just a business deal, the businessman replied, leaning in slightly. But sometimes, homes need to evolve. You have a choice: accept my offer and flourish, or watch it all slip away. The warmth of the flames flickered, casting shadows of doubt on Matt's heart. Could they truly survive without selling? He glanced at Emily again. Would she want to fight for this place, or was her heart ready to let it go? Your job is to protect your boy, Matt, the businessman continued, his voice deceptively cordial. Think of his future. Is it worth struggling to keep something that may not last? Jake looked between the adults, confusion clouding his eyes. Dad? What does he mean? Matt took a deep breath, shaking off the unease. It's okay, Jake. We're just talking about options. He wanted to shield Jake from this darkness, but the shadows were creeping in, slowly suffocating the hope they had built as a family. Emily finally broke the silence, her voice firm. We'll not be making any decisions tonight. She stood tall, her determination shining like the stars beginning to peek through the settling dusk. You need to leave. The businessman raised an eyebrow, clearly not used to being dismissed. Very well. But remember, I'll give you some time. Make no mistake, eventually, you'll come to me. As he walked away, the air felt lighter, but the uncertainty remained. Matt watched him melt back into the obscurity, dread creeping in once more. The looming unease about their options weighed heavier than ever. Jake leaned against Matt, whispering, Are we okay, Dad? Matt pulled him closer, wrapping his arms around him protectively. We're going to be fine, buddy. I promise. But deep inside, uncertainty churned. As the fire flickered, the reality of their dilemma pierced through the facade of safety they had tried to create. Emily, we need to start discussing our options, he said, finally ready to confront the reality they couldn't ignore any longer. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. A storm was coming, and it wasn't just the weather. Are we really fighting for this place? Matt's voice broke slightly as he searched her eyes, looking for reassurance, or maybe a spark of the dreams they once shared. Emily stared back, her expression serious. I need to know what you want, Matt. It's time to decide. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Their decision could change everything. The night deepened around them, and the flicker of the fire was no longer enough to shield them from the storm ahead. Just then, a sudden gust of wind knocked over a chair, scattering ash and embers across the ground, a chaotic reminder that change was inevitable. And as the echoes of the distant thunder grew closer, the night held its breath, waiting to unveil the truth that lay ahead. What would their choices bring? They had to decide before the storm fully erupted. Matt could feel the cool breeze growing stronger, the heaviness in the air hinting at a brewing storm. He squeezed Jake tighter, wishing he could block out the uncertainty that had wrapped itself around them like a thick fog. We can handle this, he murmured, more to himself than to Jake. He needed to believe it. Emily's eyes darted to the shadows where the businessman had disappeared, then back to Matt. What do you want, really? She asked, her voice calm but insistent. We can't keep avoiding this. Matt took a moment, collecting his scattered thoughts. It wasn't just about the ranch anymore, it was about the family's future, about staying true to their dreams while also facing reality. I want to make it work, he said finally, his voice steady. This is our home, Emily. We've built a life here. But I need your support. I'm with you, she replied softly, taking his hand. Whatever you decide, we'll face it together. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating Emily's face for just a moment, highlighting the determination etched in her features. It reminded him of all the reasons he had fallen in love with her, the strength, the fire hidden beneath her calm demeanor. "Let us not wait too long to discuss this," Matt said, feeling the weight of the storm both outside and within their lives. The fellowship they had cultivated was at stake. He leaned in close, speaking low, almost like a prayer. "We can't let fear take over." Suddenly, Jake piped up. "Can we have a family meeting? Like the ones we used to have?" His youthful enthusiasm contrasted sharply with the tension threading through the air, but it sparked a flicker of hope in the adults. "Sure, buddy," Matt replied, ruffling Jake's hair to lighten the mood. "What do you want to discuss?" With a sparkling grin, Jake suggested, "We could talk about our favorite things, and then figure out how to make this ranch even cooler." Emily chuckled, the sound breaking the oppressive atmosphere. "All right, let us brainstorm. But we also need to talk about how to protect what we love." The fire crackled, a comforting presence as they began sharing their ideas. "We could have more animals," Jake exclaimed, his excitement infectious. "Maybe a petting zoo. And maybe set up a farm stand for fresh produce," Emily added, her eyes lighting up. "People love local produce. We could even use the space for community events. Create a market day." Matt felt a swell of pride as he listened to them. This was their dream, working together, keeping the ranch a sanctuary for their family and the community. "Those are great ideas," he said, feeling renewed energy flow through him. The storm, meanwhile, continued to rumble, but this time it felt different. More like a distant heartbeat than an impending disaster. It echoed their resolve to defend what they believed in. Just as they were sharing laughter, the wind shifted, and the rain started to fall. Gentle at first, it quickly picked up, drumming loudly on the roof. Through the chaos of the storm outside, warmth grew in their little circle, a refuge against the turbulence. "Let us keep figuring out how to make this work, together," Matt said, looking at each of them. "We'll fight for this place. But we do it as a family." As the rain poured harder, soaking everything outside, Emily squeezed Matt's hand, her eyes anxious yet full of determination. "I believe we can conquer any storm, if we stand together." Just then, a flash illuminated the yard, catching their blurred figures moving nervously, shifting between hope and trepidation. The storm outside mirrored their inner turmoil. Yet deep down, they knew they had to face whatever shadows came their way. As thunder rolled again, Matt caught a glimpse of movement beyond the trees. He turned sharply, heart racing. What was that? The realization hit them just as another bolt of lightning sliced across the sky. It wasn't over yet. They wouldn't have an easy fight. What was lurking outside the safety of their family circle? What other challenges awaited them in the dark? Matt's heart pounded as he strained to see what lay beyond the trees. The rain was relentless now, washing away the dust from the ground but adding a new layer of unease. Emily's grip tightened around his hand, her confidence shifting to worry. Jake, sensing their tension, shifted from excitement to concern. "What if it's just an animal?" he asked, his voice shaky. "Maybe," Matt said, forcing a smile. But deep down, shadows of doubt crept in. "Let's stay together, just in case." He moved toward the window, peering through the rain-spattered glass. The world outside was a hazy blur. Another flash of lightning split the sky. This time, he could see a figure dark and indistinct, partially obscured by the thick undergrowth. Had the businessman returned? Or was it something else entirely? Emily joined him, her eyes narrowing as she squinted into the darkness. "Matt," she whispered, "be careful." He nodded, then turned, adrenaline pulsing in his veins. "Stay back, both of you." With a firm step, he opened the door, a barrier between them and whatever danger lurked outside. The wind whipped at him, cold and wet, but he stepped out into the storm. Each raindrop felt like a challenge, assaulting him as he moved cautiously down the porch steps. Jake tugged at Emily's hand, watching with wide eyes as his father ventured out into the tempestuous night. "Dad!" Jake called, but the wind swallowed his words. Matt approached the line of trees, each step heavy with apprehension. A part of him wanted to turn back, to retreat into the safety of his family, but he couldn't let fear reign. He had to protect them. He had to face whatever was out there. As he moved closer, the figure came into view, a man, soaked and shivering. Matt's instincts kicked in, fueled by the love for his family and the responsibility he felt for their safety. "What are you doing here?" he called out, his voice cutting through the storm. The man lifted his head, revealing a face illuminated briefly by another flash of lightning. It was someone Matt recognized, a former worker from nearby. "Matt!" he shouted, voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry to intrude, but I needed help. My truck broke down just beyond the hill. I noticed your place when I was running and thought maybe you could help." Matt hesitated, the clouds of uncertainty swirling fiercely in his mind. He couldn't be sure of the man's intentions after the ominous encounter with the businessman. He glanced back at Emily and Jake. They were watching, their faces shadowed with fear. "Please," the man pleaded, "I wouldn't have come here if I had other options." The conflict tugged at Matt. Could he trust this man? The storm was raging, relentless, and there was a part of him that just wanted to run back to his family, shield them from the world outside. But another part, the part that wanted to lead, to protect, demanded he at least hear the man out. "All right," he relented, tone cautious. "You can come inside. But no funny business." Matt stepped back, waving the man toward the house. As they turned to head inside, another rumble of thunder cracked across the sky, punctuating the unease that settled like an unwelcome guest. Once inside, Emily moved to Matt's side, her eyes scanning the newcomer suspiciously, but her heart still tethered to Matt's fierce determination. Jake watched, not understanding the fear but sensing it all the same. "What's your name?" Emily asked, crossing her arms. "Ryan," the man replied, trying to shake off the water. His teeth chattered, and he seemed genuine enough. But still, caution hung in the air. As the storm waged war outside, Matt could feel the weight of the unknown beginning to settle in their home, a stranger among them and the uncertainty not fading away. Rifts were opening, shadows creeping in. What did Ryan's arrival mean for their family? The atmosphere thickened as they all braced themselves for whatever truth Ryan might reveal, and the turning point this storm was bringing to their lives. Just then, the lights flickered ominously before plunging them into darkness. What lay ahead in the shadows, both for the ranch they loved and the new uncertainty right at their doorstep? The darkness enveloped them like a shroud, the hum of the storm drowning out all familiar sounds. Heartbeats echoed in the silence as they stood frozen, feeling the tension stretch in the air. "Matt?" Emily's voice shook, her eyes wide as she glanced toward the window. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning painting eerie shapes across the landscape for brief, heartbeat-counted moments. "We're okay," he said, trying to project calm, though a knot of unease twisted in his stomach. He flicked on a flashlight, its beam cutting through the shadows and illuminating Ryan's anxious face. "Sorry about the lights," Ryan said quickly. "I can help get them on again if you have a generator." Matt exchanged a glance with Emily. She nodded ever so slightly, as if acknowledging that they at least had to give Ryan a chance. He felt the burden of her trust resting on his shoulders. With a heavy sigh, he led Ryan towards the back room where the generator lay in wait. Thunder rolled, and Matt briefly let his mind wander back to the life before the storm, when their days were filled with laughter and sunshine. In the distance, he could almost hear Jake's soft giggles, the sound that always brought him peace. Inside the cramped room, boxes overstuffed with tools and old equipment loomed like silent watchers. "It should be over there," Matt said, pointing to the tangled mess. Ryan knelt, his hands deftly working through the jumble. "Do you mind?" Ryan asked, gesturing toward a pair of rusty pliers that Matt had used just weeks ago. Matt reluctantly handed them over, watching as Ryan's hands moved, reflecting a blend of desperation and resourcefulness. Something about his actions stirred a memory deep within him, a reminder of community, of working together when it mattered most. The whir of the generator came to life, a soft triumph amidst the chaos of the storm. Light flooded back into the house. Jake whooped with joy, his small frame bobbing as he darted excitedly around the room. "Hey, look! It's magic!" he yelled, giggling as the glow illuminated the faces of three bewildered adults. Emily smiled, her arms relaxing as she joined Jake, her earlier worry receding for just a moment, replaced by the innocence of their son's delight. Matt felt a warmth spread through him, a fleeting sense of normalcy amidst the bizarre. "You have a great kid," Ryan remarked, looking up from the generator as he wiped his brow. "Thanks," Matt replied, the words heavy with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "What's your story, Ryan? Why were you in such a hurry?" Ryan's expression shifted, shadows flickering across his face. "It's complicated. I guess I was running away from some things." Matt understood those words in a way that resonated deeper than expected. He had his own escape plans, more than once, brought on by the heavy burden of responsibility, especially when it came to protecting his family from danger. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes. Matt took a breath, deciding in that moment it was time to delve deeper, but he could sense Emily's hesitation beside him. "We're listening," she said gently, urging him on, her voice steady. "Feel free to share, Ryan. Just like family." The light flickered again as Ryan took a breath, and Matt felt their tiny world full of unspoken fears and growing bonds rest on the words about to be shared. Why was Ryan really here? What haunted him? As he looked into Ryan's eyes, they all seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the truth that might shatter everything, or perhaps, just perhaps, bring them closer together. But would the storm outside expose more than just physical danger, shining light on hidden secrets they were all too afraid to confront? Ryan hesitated, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The flickering generator cast shadows, and uncertainty danced across his features. Matt felt the weight of that silence, an invisible thread tugging at them all. It's not a pretty picture," Ryan finally said, his voice heavy with the past that clung to him. "I lost my wife a few months ago. It feels like I'm on the run from my own grief. I thought if I just kept moving, just kept my mind occupied, it would get easier." Matt's heart sank. He exchanged a glance with Emily, whose expression softened in a way that said she understood the complexity of loss. She stepped closer to Ryan, the gentleness in her eyes reaching out to him. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice a soothing balm amidst the chaos. "I can't imagine how hard that must be." The storm howled outside, its resonance echoing the turbulence within the room. Ryan swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill from his tired eyes. "I thought I could outrun the memories," he continued, his voice shaky. "But they just cling to me, no matter where I go. I was trying to figure out what to do next, where to go, and I ended up here." As Ryan spoke, the enormity of his words settled in the air. Matt felt a shift within himself. Understanding. Empathy. The kind built from shared pain. It got him thinking about his own struggles to hold his family close while the world around them often felt perilous. That darkness Ryan spoke of resonated with Matt more strongly than he wanted to admit. He glanced over at Emily, who was transfixed by Ryan's vulnerability. She reached out and rested a hand on Ryan's arm. "You came to the right place," she said softly. "We're all running from something, aren't we? Maybe we can face what we've lost together." Jake had been quietly listening, his eyes darting between the expressions of the adults around him. "What about the magic?" he asked suddenly, breaking the tense mood. "Can we still find magic even when things are hard?" And in that moment of innocence, something shifted. Matt realized they had to protect that spark for their son. They had to rebuild, not just for themselves but for Jake. It was a gentle reminder that even in darkness, flickers of light persisted. "Absolutely," Ryan replied, wiping away a stray tear that threatened to betray him. Magic exists in the moments we share in the love we still hold on to. Matt felt the warmth of hope creeping back. It's about finding that light, he affirmed. Even when it's cloudy. As the trio lost themselves in conversation, sharing stories of loss and resilience, a warmth spread through the room, contrasting sharply with the tempest outside. Laughter began to rise again, wrapping them in a cocoon against the relentless storm, but then, as if the universe had sensed their moment of calm, there came a loud crash from outside, the sound of something breaking, something ominous. Matt's heart raced. They all turned instinctively toward the window, the flickering light casting their shadows against the wall ominously as the storm roared louder, hinting that their night wasn't over yet. Fear dug its claws back in, and as Matt faced the window, he couldn't shake the feeling that the storm didn't just threaten the house but also the fragile connection they were beginning to build. What was that? Emily whispered, her brow furrowing with worry. With a pounding heart, Matt took in the chaos outside and knew deep down they had to confront whatever was out there together. And as another lightning bolt split the sky, revealing glimpses of the world around them, he felt the pull of the unknown and the realization that while they'd all been running from something, they might just need to face something greater than themselves. What awaited them in the storm? The air crackled with tension, and with every heartbeat, the storm raged on. Matt's heart thudded loudly against his chest, the sound mixing with the growl of the storm outside. He leaned closer to the window, squinting through the sheets of rain. The wind howled like a wounded beast, and he strained to make sense of the chaos. "Do you see anything?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," he replied, his eyes darting to the shadows flitting by outside. Something felt off, more than just a broken branch or a fallen tree. Ryan stood next to Matt, his face pale, mirroring the tension that had returned to the room. "Maybe we should just wait," he suggested, but the thought of staying put did nothing to calm the rising tide of adrenaline in Matt's veins. Jake, sensing the shift in atmosphere, clutched Emily's hand tightly. "Mom, I'm scared," he confessed, his voice small. Emily knelt beside their son, brushing her fingers through his hair. "It's okay, bud. We're together, and we'll face whatever it is together." Ryan looked back toward the dark window, uncertainty on his face. "You know, when tragedy strikes, it can make you feel trapped. But sometimes, it's that very storm that pushes us to find deeper connections," he said. His voice wavered but held a hint of resolve. Matt met Ryan's worried gaze. "You really think that's what is happening? That we're being pushed together by this?" A crash echoed in the distance, sharper this time. All eyes shifted toward the door that led outside, and the air in the room became thick with anticipation. "Should we check it out?" Jake asked, his curiosity outweighing his fear now. "If we do, we should all go together," Matt decided, his heart racing with the need to protect his family but also fueled by a sense of adventure. The unpredictability of the storm stirred something alive and wild within him. With a firm nod from Emily, the three adults locked eyes. "Okay," Ryan said, determination creeping into his tone. "Let us face this storm together." They stepped away from the flickering light of the generator, moving toward the door. The moment Matt's hand gripped the cold doorknob, he felt an electric jolt like the air before a storm had thickened and charged with potential. He opened the door just as another flash of lightning split the sky. The world outside was a blur of rain and wind, and it took a moment for their eyes to adjust. Distant clumps of darkness moved uneasily across the yard, but as the lightning illuminated the area, Matt could see it was just a pile of debris scattered by the wind. Relief washed over him until he heard a low moan rise above the cacophony of the storm. It cut through him like an icy knife. "Did you hear that?" he asked, tension rising again as he strained to peer into the yard. "What was it?" Emily asked, stepping close to Matt, her voice trembling again with concern. "It sounded like someone." Jake whispered, his youthful innocence battling the gnawing fear that had crept back into the air. Matt clenched his fists. This was different from what they were facing inside. This was a call for help or a warning. He looked back at Emily and Ryan, their faces reflecting his own uncertainty. "Let us go closer, we have to see who or what it is," Matt urged, his heart pounding with every word. There was no turning back now. Whatever awaited them in the storm was going to change everything. As they traveled further into the tempest, their bond strengthened. Whatever was out there was connected to their shared journey, a new hurdle, perhaps a beginning instead of an end. What they might uncover could rewrite their stories forever. And right then, through the lashing rain and the howling wind, Matt couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to unfold right in front of them. What awaited them in the depths of the storm? As they stepped out into the storm, the air pressed down on them like an unseen weight. Rain lashed against their skin, drenching them instantly. Every gust of wind seemed to carry whispers, haunting and incoherent. Matt squinted against the watery onslaught, trying to catch another glimpse of whatever had produced that moan. Was it a person? An animal? His heart thudded heavily as his instincts pulsed with worry. "Stay close, everyone," he murmured, and they formed a tight cluster, Jake's small hand gripped tightly within his mother's. The chaos around them faded into the background, the only sound that mattered now was the distant call blending with the storm. "What if it's a trick?" Ryan said, his voice trembling. "I mean, what if we're walking into something dangerous?" Emily shook her head, her eyes fixed intently ahead, filled with determined softness. "We can't ignore it. If someone is out there, they might need our help." Matt felt the weight of her words, the tension in the air shifting slightly with a flicker of purpose. He took a deep breath, pushing through the rising fear. This storm had become a door, a portal to reveal both vulnerability and courage, intertwining them in ways they never expected. A flash of lightning illuminated the yard, outlining figures amidst the scattered debris. "Look!" he exclaimed, pointing as he noticed something moving. There it was again, a form struggling, crouched within the remnants of fallen branches and shattered wood. A pitiful cry reached them, sending shivers down Matt's spine. It triggered a rush of adrenaline, compelling him deeper into the storm's embrace. "Wait, please!" Jake shouted, and the urgency in his voice cracked like thunder. "Hang on, bud!" Matt shouted back, trying to keep fear from slipping into his words. They inched closer until they could see a soaked figure, drenched and broken. It was a woman, her hair plastered against her face, trembling violently against the cold. "Help me," her voice broke, barely cutting through the wind. "Stay back, don't get too close yet," Ryan warned, but Matt couldn't hold back. "We can't leave her," he called out, steel building in his voice. He rushed forward, shielding his family behind him. Upon getting a closer look, he could see that the woman's arms were scraped, markings of what looked like deep cuts from branches or debris. The storm enveloped them in its fury, but her wide eyes held a glimmer of hope. "Get her out of the storm!" Emily shouted, urgency surging with panic. Quickly, Ryan stepped beside Matt. "Let us help her up." Together, they reached out, offering their hands. The woman brightened slightly as they pulled her from the grasp of the storm. Her breath was ragged, but together, they anchored her against the wind, pressing on through the downpour toward the safety of the porch. As they stumbled back, Matt felt his heart pounding in his chest, not just from fear but from something else awakening within him. Sharing danger forged an unbreakable bond, one that tested their hearts and their courage in these crucial moments. Once on the porch, the world shifted. They protected her from the raging storm, but now they were all drenched in uncertainty. Who was she? Where had she come from? With a deep breath, Matt locked eyes with Emily and Ryan, and then he turned back to the woman, whose trembling was beginning to subside. "What is your name?" Matt asked softly, feeling the weight of the moment. "Clara," she mumbled, and they all leaned in closer, sensing that her story was just beginning to unfold. Amidst the chaos of the storm, the threads of their lives were intertwining in unpredictable ways. Where would this path lead them? "Stay with us, you're not alone anymore," Matt promised, heart full of resolve. But as he spoke, he wondered if they could handle whatever truths Clara brought with her, and what secrets would the storm reveal next. The storm had turned from a raging tempest to a soft, soothing rain. The world around them had transformed, and with the light of dawn breaking through the clouds, a sense of hope filled the air. Clara rested on the couch as Emily wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Jake busied himself in the kitchen, preparing cups of steaming hot cocoa, blissfully unaware of the heaviness in the room. Matt sat across from Clara, his gaze steady, waiting for her to gather her thoughts. Her eyes flickered with vulnerability. "I can't thank you enough," she began, her voice wavering. "I thought I would be alone out there." "We've all been through storms," Matt replied, nodding toward Emily and Jake, who was giggling over chocolate-stained marshmallows. "You're safe now. Let us talk. Tell us your story." Clara took a breath, tears glistening in her eyes. "It's a long one. But I lost everything. My husband, my home." The weight of it she trailed off, emotion thickening in the air. Emily squeezed her hand, ready for this moment. "You're not alone. We're here for you." As Clara shared her story, the others listened intently. She described the haunting memories of love and laughter turned a bitter reminder of what once was. Her past mirrored their current struggles, a reflection of fear and hope entwined in unexpected ways. "Just days ago, I was fleeing a life riddled with pain," Clara continued. "But it all feels different here. Like maybe I'm meant to find a new beginning." Matt felt an overwhelming warmth surge within him. It was in that moment he realized they weren't just helping Clara, they were reaching out to themselves, finding common ground in their struggles. "You'll find that here too. This ranch, that's where new life grows," he said, a sense of renewed purpose pulsing through him. Jake, with his wide smile, chimed in, "We could have a space for you. You can be part of our family." Emily chuckled softly, and Clara's face lit up. "That sounds wonderful, Jake. But where would I fit in?" "The ranch is a treasure, if we let it be," Matt said, glancing at Emily before turning back to Clara. "Let us not just survive, let us thrive." In that moment, a plan began to take form. They envisioned shared responsibilities, a community garden overflowing with produce, making life grow in more ways than one. They were guardians now of the ranch, of one another, of shared dreams. Later that afternoon, as the rain eased into a gentle drizzle, they gathered outside on the porch, newly transformed from strangers sharing a moment of survival into a family of choice. Together, they shared laughter, filled the porch with warmth, and began to outline their vision just as the sun broke through the remaining clouds, casting a glow on their little sanctuary. Through Clara's unsteady voice, they heard the echoes of their own fears and resilience. Jake chased rainbows within the droplets left behind, his laughter serving as a reminder that renewal could rise from ashes, just like the sun chasing the storm away. But then a familiar sound broke through the smooth honk of a truck. As Matt turned, his heart clenched. It was the businessman again, approaching like a lurking shadow. But this time, Matt stood taller, the light of their new resolve within him ready to shine. Emily stepped beside him. "We'll face him together," she whispered, intertwining her fingers with his. Their family, their chosen unity stood ready. It wasn't just about the ranch anymore. It was about love, solidarity, and fighting back against fear. As they faced the approaching figure, a realization set in. Matt knew and felt deeply, they could conquer any storm, even the one simmering just beyond the horizon. It was time to take a stand. "Why don't you come and see the ranch in its real light?" Matt called out to the businessman, his voice strong and steady. A collective breath hung in the air. With the sun shining and their hearts full, they were ready. They were home, and now, dear friends, this story has reached its culmination, but there's more to share, more transformations to witness. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss out on more powerful stories that connect us all. Leave a like right away to keep this journey alive and to feed the algorithm that helps these voices be heard. Comment below with your thoughts and let us know how this conclusion made you feel. Your words matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. They could be inspired to fight their own storms. Let us continue to grow this community of hope, together.